Dan and Amy, here's what President Trump said in celebration of the House passing Obamacare Repeal 2.0 yesterday.
It's been a catastrophe, and this is a great plan. I actually think it will get even better, and this is, make no mistake, this is a repeal and a replace of Obamacare. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake.
I mean, it's so cute. They're getting together as like a celebrity TV celebration, and Donald Trump was really excited.
How am I doing? Am I doing okay? I'm president. Hey, I'm president. Can you believe it?
And very optimistic as he thinks the bill could get even better in the Senate. That's not the conventional wisdom on the street. For more on that, we're pleased to be joined by Mike Emanuel, Chief Congressional Correspondent for Fox News Channel. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Dan, Amy, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning. And so as this moves over to the Senate, comes as no surprise to Mitch McConnell. So he has, I'm sure, been plotting strategy as to how to deal with Schumer, maybe peel off some Democrats, including John Tester from Montana, who's expressed an openness on the topic. How do you see this proceed, and what kind of time horizon are we looking at?
All legitimate questions. It sounds like it's going to be a few-month process, and it sounds like the key health-related senators are talking about writing their own bill. You know, they say they're open to maybe borrowing some of the best ideas in the House plan, but they feel like it's such a big deal, health care in this country, that they're going to write their own legislation, and we'll see how close it is to what the House has done. Some were alarmed by the fact that the House did not ask the Congressional Budget Office to analyze an estimated price tag for the bill, and so they said, we would want to know what it's going to cost the consumers, what it's going to cost the taxpayers before we vote on anything. But Speaker Paul Ryan did what he had to do to get it out of the House. Now it's in the hands of the Senate. There are no shortage of egos here on Capitol Hill, and so we expect senators to write their own bill. And then, assuming they can pass something, then they would go to conference between the House and the Senate, the old-fashioned way. We did legislation here. And then, they would have to vote on the compromise plan. But a critical first step yesterday, and we do expect senators to take their time and put their own mark on health care in this country.
Well, in yesterday's House bill that passed, I mean, who are the winners and who are the losers?
I think you got to say big winners are President Trump, Paul Ryan, Kevin McCarthy, the majority leader, the leadership team in the House, and at the White House, quite candidly. I mean, I think they put everything on the line. There were times yesterday where they were telling us they had the votes, but we were wondering, what if they're off? What if their count's off and this thing goes down? Who's going to get fired at the White House? Is this the end of Paul Ryan as the House Speaker? So they really, put a lot into this. It was not pretty at certain steps along the way, like when they had to pull the bill originally. But they got something through, and it's a complicated issue. And, so it's not law. It's not done yet. It was a critical first step. But, for the Senate to do anything, the House had to pass something, and they were able to do it. And I think, Democrats have to be bummed out in the House. They were hoping that the White House and the House Republicans would be bumping into each other, Keystone Cops. And in the end, after lots of debate and drama, they did get something across the finish line yesterday.
Is Trump right to be optimistic about the Senate? I mean, that seems counterintuitive, yet Mitch McConnell and many of those Republican senators ran on the same platform as it pertains to Obamacare that so many members of the House did. So, they're under the same moral and political imperative that many House members are.
You're absolutely right. And I think it'll be interesting to see if perhaps over the summer, if President Trump goes on tour and perhaps goes to states where Democrats are on the ballot next year in the Senate, and he won those states. So does he go to Missouri and say, I need you to get Claire McCaskill to work with me on health care reform? Crowd roars. Does he go to Montana, John Tester? Does he go to West Virginia, Joe Manchin? And does he try to pick off some moderate Democrats who want to win re-election next year and get them on board with his health care plan? Because I think getting, for example, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul and perhaps Texas Senator Ted Cruz to sign off on a more moderate health care plan might be difficult. But if he can pick off some Democrats, maybe there is a path. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. It's definitely going to be another big struggle here on Capitol Hill between the White House and Capitol Hill. But, they're just getting started when they come back next week, the senators, and so we'll see what they come up with and what the path might be to get something across the finish line there. They just need a simple majority. So if some of the Republicans back off, if they can get a few Democrats on board, that's a path.
So, what did you think yesterday after the vote it barely passed that the Democrats were singing "na na 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 hey hey hey, kiss him goodbye" to Republicans?
Well, it is fascinating because and I pointed this out on TV yesterday that to be fair, those who voted for Obamacare, a lot of them lost their jobs over the years following that vote. 2010, people ran against Obamacare. 2012, 2014, 2016, and the Democratic ranks here on Capitol Hill have been decimated following the passage of Obamacare. So I think Democrats are hoping that will be the case with this House bill that was passed, that they'll be able to hang it around the necks of Republicans running for re-election next year. But we'll see. I think there was also a great risk of doing nothing after promising since 2010 that if you give the American people give them the opportunity, they will pass a repeal and replacement plan. So I think there was pressure to act, and we'll see what the political consequences are down the road, perhaps when the American people decide whether this was a good move or a bad move.
What kind of momentum do you think this provides the caucuses, particularly in the House, as they ostensibly turn to tax reform now?
I think it's huge. I really do, because I think they desperately needed a win. They needed to get something across the finish line. There was a lot of pressure about first 100 days, even though it's maybe an artificial timeline or whatever. But, there were headlines about first 100 days, no major legislative accomplishments other than getting Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court, which was something the Senate did. But there was pressure on Paul Ryan to get something done. There was pressure on the president and his team to get something done. And so I think they feel better. They feel like they know each other better. There were a lot of, meetings between White House officials and top Republicans on Capitol Hill. There were a lot of phone conversations, a lot of face-to-face conversations, and there are relationships being built. And so I think they feel better getting something done, that as they have other heavy lifts down the road, they're not strangers with one another. They know each other. They can pick up the phone and talk to one another. And tax reform may not be easy. It's another huge issue, but, at least they can say they got something done, feel good about that, and move forward to another complicated issue.
All right. He is Mike Emanuel, Chief Congressional Correspondent, Senior Political Correspondent for Fox News. Mike, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.